My wife posted, "Single life is better than settling for a man like him." I replied, "Agreed." Then served divorce papers at her office. Her boss watched as she broke down crying. I, 36 male, found out my wife was leaving me from a Facebook post. Not a message, not a tearful late-night confession. A public post for all our friends and family to see. It read, "Single life is better than settling for a man like him." The him was me, obviously. The picture accompanying it was of her, Julia, 34, clinking champagne flutes with a guy from her office, a smarmy sales bro named Brian, 35. I recognized him from the company Christmas party. The one I'd left early because I had a stomach bug and she'd stayed to network. My first instinct wasn't rage. It was a quiet hum, a clarity I hadn't felt in months. I think Julia had become so obsessed with curating her online brand that she genuinely thought she could control the narrative of our breakup by getting out ahead of it, framing herself as the empowered one. She simply failed to see how transparent and cruel it would look to anyone outside her echo chamber. All the little things, the late nights, the hidden phone screen, the disinterest, they all snapped into focus. It wasn't a puzzle. It was a picture that had finally been hung on the wall. I looked at the post for a long time. 73 likes, a few "you go girl" comments from her work friends. My own mother had even liked it, probably thinking it was some vague inspirational quote. The audacity was almost impressive. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I simply commented on the post. Agreed. Then, before I did anything else, I took a series of high-resolution timestamp screenshots. The post, the picture, the comments, my comment. An unalterable digital record. Only then did I call my lawyer. My lawyer, a stoic woman named Miss Evelyn, was brutally efficient. She didn't offer condolences. She offered a strategy. The public nature of her announcement is a gift, legally speaking, she'd said, her voice crisp over the phone. It establishes a clear timeline and intent. No ambiguity. I liked her immediately. The plan was simple, methodical. I spent the next 48 hours in a state of hyper-focused activity. I compiled our financials. I separated our assets on a spreadsheet, down to the penny. I took pictures of the apartment, documenting the state of our shared belongings. Every piece of art we'd bought together, every piece of furniture. I was creating an archive of a life that was about to be systematically dismantled. Julia didn't come home that night, or the next. Her side of the bed remained cold and smooth. The silence in the apartment was a living thing. I found myself listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the floorboards, noticing sounds that had been drowned out by her presence for the last 7 years. I felt a pang in my chest, a hollow ache that I recognized as grief. But it was distant, like a storm happening miles away. The hum of purpose was louder. The divorce papers were ready by Wednesday morning. Miss Evelyn had asked if I wanted them served at our apartment. "No," I said. "I have a specific location in mind." Julia worked in a trendy open-plan office downtown. Glass walls, exposed brick, a pudding green in the break room. It was a place obsessed with image, with the performance of success. Her entire professional life was a carefully constructed facade. It seemed only fitting to deliver the news there. I hired a professional process server, a tall, impassive man named Billy who looked like he'd been carved from granite. I gave him a recent photo of Juliet and specific instructions. "I want you to walk up to her desk. I want you to say her full name, Julia Marie Peterson, and I want you to hand her the documents. Don't be aggressive, just formal." And I gave him one more instruction. "Wait for me. I'll be across the street." At 11 a.m. on Wednesday, I was sitting in a coffee shop with a clear view of her office building's glass-fronted lobby. I had a lukewarm latte in my hand that I had no intention of drinking. My heart was pounding, a steady, heavy rhythm against my ribs. This wasn't anger, it was anticipation. The final scene of a play I hadn't realized I was writing. I watched Billy walk in. He spoke to the receptionist, who pointed towards Julia's section of the floor. Through the massive windows, I could see her. She was laughing with Brian, her head thrown back, a pen tucked behind her ear. He was leaning against her desk, all predatory charm and expensive cologne I could smell from across the street. Billy navigated the maze of desks with a slow, deliberate pace. I saw him approach. I saw him speak. I couldn't hear the words, of course, but I saw Julia's smile falter. The confusion, then the dawning horror as he handed her the thick manila envelope. Brian, ever the hero, stepped forward. He put a hand on Billy's arm. Billy didn't even flinch. He just nodded, said something I imagined was, "Have a nice day," and turned to leave. And then I saw it. The moment of absolute, beautiful collapse. Julia's boss, a woman named Frances, emerged from her glass-walled office, drawn by the disturbance. She walked over to Julia's desk. Brian was trying to read the papers over Julia's shoulder. Julia snatched them away, her face a mask of disbelief. She looked up, her eyes scanning the room, as if expecting to find me there, gloating. Her gaze swept past the windows, past the coffee shop. She didn't see me. I was just another face in the crowd. Then the breakdown began. It wasn't loud or histrionic. It was quiet, which was somehow worse. Her shoulders started to shake. She covered her face with her hands. Brian, realizing this was a PR disaster in the making, tried to steer her away, but it was too late. Everyone was watching. The open plan office, designed for collaboration and transparency, was now a theater for her humiliation. Frances, her boss, had her arms crossed, her expression one of utter annoyance. This was not part of the brand. This was messy, human, unprofitable. Julia finally looked up, her face streaked with tears and mascara. Her eyes met Brian's, and for the first time I saw a flicker of something in his expression that wasn't smug confidence. It was panic. This wasn't part of his plan. The fun, illicit affair had just become a legally binding complication. I took a slow sip of my cold coffee, stood up, and walked away. I didn't look back. The hum inside me had settled into a quiet, satisfying thrum. This wasn't revenge. It was a natural consequence, an equal and opposite reaction. She had written her ending. I was simply delivering the epilogue. Update edit. Wow, thanks for the comments and awards. Didn't expect this to get so much attention. To answer a few DMs. Yes, I am 100% done. No, I am not second-guessing myself. The support helps, Tabaha. The silence was broken on Friday evening. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I answered and put it on speaker. "What the hell did you do?" It was Brian. His voice was tight, a squeak of panic under the bravado. "I'm not sure I follow," I said, my tone placid. I was in the kitchen, carefully packing a box with my cookbooks. "You couldn't have just talked to her? You had to pull that stunt at her work? In front of everyone? In front of Frances?" He sounded personally offended, as if I had violated some sacred bro code. "Was I supposed to check your schedule first?" I asked, placing a worn copy of Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat into the box. "My apologies. I should have considered how my wife's affair and the subsequent end of my marriage might inconvenience her AP." There was a sputtering on the other end. "We're not." "It wasn't. You don't know anything. I know that Julia posted a picture of you two celebrating your new single life on a public forum. I know she hasn't been home in 5 days, and I know she was served with divorce papers. The rest is for the lawyers. Speaking of which, I'd advise my STBXW to get one." I could hear Julia crying in the background. "Give me the phone, Brian." The phone fumbled. "You're an ass," she sobbed into the receiver. "You did that to embarrass me." "Embarrass you?" I paused. "Julia, you posted a declaration of our marriage's failure to 250 of our closest friends and relatives. You posed for a photo with your lover. What part of that did you think would remain private?" "It was just a post. It was a mistake. I was emotional." "It was a choice," I corrected her gently. "Just like my response was a choice. I'm choosing to believe you. You said you wanted the single life? I'm facilitating that. You should be thanking me." "I want my things," she said, her voice shifting to demanding. "I'm coming over tomorrow to get my stuff." "That won't be possible," I said calmly. "Our lawyers will arrange a time. There's a formal process for this." "Shared property? You mean my property?" she shrieked. "That painting in the living room is mine. My grandmother gave it to me." "The abstract one we bought at the art fair 2 years ago for $3,000? I asked. "The one we have a receipt for from our joint account? That painting?" Silence. The beautiful, damning silence of someone caught in a lie. "You can't do this," she whispered. "I'm not doing anything, Julia," I said, taping up the box. "I'm just following the rules. My lawyer will be in touch with yours." I hung up. The next day, I changed the locks and set up a camera in the living room, pointed at the front door. Ms. Evelyn had called it prudent documentation. It paid off 2 hours later. My phone pinged with a motion alert. I watched the live feed as Julia and Brian tried her old key. When it didn't work, Brian, instead of getting violent, stepped back and started coaching Julia on what to say, clearly aware they were likely being filmed. Julia started crying for the camera, pleading for her sentimental items. Brian then stepped into the frame, pointed at the door, and said loudly, "We'll be contacting our lawyer about this illegal eviction." He then put his arm around Julia, leading her away. Before they left, however, his composure cracked for just a second, and he kicked over a large potted fern, sending soil spilling across the welcome mat. I saved the video file and emailed it to Miss Evelyn. Attempted entry, feigned distress for a perceived camera, a legal threat, and minor vandalism. 2:17 p.m. Update 2. 2 weeks later. A lot of you have been asking for an update, so here it is. The past 2 weeks have been an education in entitlement. I received a blistering email from my STBXW, CCing Brian as if he's her legal counsel. It was a list of demands for the divorce settlement. She wanted the apartment, the car, our entire joint savings account, and for me to pay her bills for 6 months. She also demanded the two $850 security deposit from an apartment we rented 8 years ago. It was like reading a toddler's Christmas list. I forwarded it to Ms. Evelyn without comment. Her reply was succinct. "This is excellent. Keep all correspondence." The social fallout has been clarifying. One mutual friend, Albert, called to mediate. "Dude, I think you're overreacting," he'd said. "Albert, did she tell you she's living with Brian?" I asked. "Well, no. She said she was staying with her sister." "Really?" I said. "Because her sister has been posting vacation photos from Cabo all week. I don't think Julia's there." A long pause. "Oh, Ida for making it awkward? I don't care. But it's not all strategy. Last night I found a bottle of her perfume. I picked it up, and the scent, it hit me hard. For a second I was back 7 years ago, watching her get ready for our first date. The grief was a physical thing. I held the bottle for a full minute, then I screwed the cap on tight and put in a box labeled Julia, Personal Effects. The moment passed. The work is not yet done. Now, for the interesting part. I received an email from Julia's HR department, a formal request for a statement regarding an internal investigation. Apparently her company just went through a massive lawsuit over a manager-subordinate affair last year, and their C-suite is now on a zero-tolerance crusade against anything that even smells like unprofessional conduct. Frances, the boss, is clearly covering her own butt. The public drama I facilitated was exactly the kind of liability they were trying to avoid. They were investigating whether Julia and Brian's relationship violated company policy. My public comment on her Facebook post and the screenshots of the post itself were now corporate exhibits. I spent an hour crafting my reply. I was polite, factual, and devastatingly neutral. I attached a timeline, the screenshots, and the video of Brian's little performance on my doorstep, ending with his moment of vandalism. I finished the email by stating, "I consider this a private matter, but I am happy to cooperate with any official inquiries as required. I didn't create this mess, I'm just tidying up." Update 3. The dust has settled. Not in a cinematic way, but in the slow, quiet way that real life happens. The divorce was finalized last month, uncontested. After her HR department got my email, Julia's list of demands vanished. Miss Evelyn said her lawyer advised her to accept a standard, equitable division of assets. My documentation had left them with no room to maneuver. The fallout at her job was catastrophic for them. The internal investigation, spurred by a paranoid corporate culture, concluded that Brian was an unacceptable liability. He was fired for unprofessional conduct and for creating a hostile environment. His little doorstep threat and pot-kicking performance were cited. Julia wasn't fired, but she was demoted and moved to a different department, away from any client-facing roles. Her dream job became her prison. The network she was so proud of now saw her as toxic. The last I heard, she was looking for another job, but her industry is smaller than she thought. Reputations travel. We met one last time in the parking lot of a storage facility to hand over her boxed-up belongings. She looked diminished. Pale and puffy-eyed, she wouldn't look at me. Brian sat sullenly in the passenger seat of his leased BMW. I unloaded the boxes. The one with her perfume was on top. "That's everything," I said. She finally looked at me, her face filled with a curdled resentment. "I hope you're happy," she spat. You ruined my life. I considered her. The old me would have been gutted, but that man was gone. No, Julia, I said, not unkindly. You posted your life for public approval. I just let the public disapprove. There's a difference. I got in my car and drove away. Life is quiet now. The apartment feels like my own. I bought a new rug. I've reconnected with old friends. It's not a dramatic transformation. It's small. It's the absence of anxiety, the end of the low-grade hum of suspicion I didn't even realize was there until it was gone. I don't feel victorious. I just feel at peace. The consequences they faced were not my creation. They were the direct result of their own actions, their own entitlement, their own breathtaking lack of foresight. They thought they could control the narrative. But they forgot that once you post something for the world to see, you don't own it anymore. They remain bitter, I'm sure. In their story, I'm the villain, the cold calculating monster who blew it all up. And that's fine. Let them have their story. I have mine. And in my version, this is just the beginning.